I would say it's due to stuff like diapers. I spent we talked about this last week. I spent $83 on diapers. It's absurd if you think about it. What if I didn't have the money for diapers?
A lot of families struggle.
Well, I'll tell you this. You got to YouTube infant potty training. I don't know if there's actually YouTubes on this. I do know it's a phenomenon because we read a book on it. We thought it was weird. But it might make more sense now. It's basically you infant potty train. So, baby jetty. So, new concerns about the Delta variant are causing consumers to rein it in. This is according to a Mass Mutual Consumer Spending and Saving Index. Young adults in particular are determined to make up for lost time. Millennials and Gen Z, who reported feeling the financial impact from the rise in reopenings and social gatherings, said they are shelling out more than $1,000 a month than they did during the summer of 2020. You know what? I actually went out more during the summer of 2020 than I did during the summer of 2021 because my kid's been in the hospital the last 2 months. So spending that extra money is sometimes making a short-term decisions. Younger generations seem to be rushing to the door to get out and start living their lives again instead of making more disciplined decision. So folks, post-pandemic, do you have any revenge spending? I want you to give me a call, 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Are you involved in any post-COVID revenge spending? And what has been your guilty financial pleasure through the COVID crisis? Younger generations seem to be rushing out the door. So give us a call, 800-321-0710. We would love to have you on during the show. Many Americans plan to spend even more in the weeks ahead as schools and offices reopen, largely due to commuting costs and new clothes. Roughly 1/3 of office workers are concerned that a return to in-person or hybrid work settings will cause them a financial hit. That's because the COVID-19 pounds has caused you not to fit into your old work clothes. Financial tip, find a good tailor. Nearly half of parents of children in kindergarten through grade 12 also anticipate spending more in back-to-school supplies. In fact, back-to-school sales in the U.S. are expected to grow from 6.7% to 5.5% from last year's COVID days. As consumer spending picks up, savings falls. Nearly half, or 48% of Americans said they save less than $500 a month in the last 3 months, up from just 36% who said the same in April. The personal savings rate, how much people save as a percentage of their disposable income, hit a historic 33% last year, but now stands a bit more than 9%, according to the latest data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. A lot of what we're covering, budgeting, saving, what do you do? Well, number one, try to save a couple $100 a month. If you're not saving anything, pay yourself a car payment. But I'm here to tell you, with the right team on your side, you can achieve financial security, hopefully for you and your loved ones. Call my office for a no obligation review at 888-988-JOSH. We will help you diversify your portfolio, achieve your financial goals. And if you call us now, you go to the On Point Risk Analyzer, and we will give you your own risk score. That's free when you schedule and keep your no obligation review. We can continue to get a lot of questions about company savings plans, contribution limits. There are actually two different limits, the deferral limit and the overall limit. This makes things very confusing, especially if you're in multiple plans at the same time or if you change jobs in the middle of the year. So The Slot Report has an article talking about this, making sense of it, on IRAhelp.com, if you want the resource. The deferral limit is based on the total pre-tax and Roth contributions you can make to all your plans combined for the year. That's $19,500. Some of you're still doing the old $16,000 or $15,000. And if you're over the age of 50 or older, you can do an additional $6,500 to $7,000 called the catch-up provision. Non-Roth after-tax contributions do not count toward the limit. So some of you have the ability to do like a post-tax 401k. You should think about doing that because when you retire, you can very easily transition that into a Roth. There is one instance where contributions to all plans are not aggregated. If you're eligible for a 457 and either a 401 or a 403, you can defer up to the maximum, new word. The max you can defer is the maxifer, the maximum deferral limit to each plan. Here's the thing. Are you even doing this? Are you even doing a 401k, a 403b? Yes, I talk about actually the problems of the 401k, but that's if you have a lot of money. That's if you have a lot saved for retirement. But if you don't have anything saved, just get started. Put away 10%, put away 5%, put away 3%. You're not going to miss 3%. Also, folks, head over to the youtube.com/thefinancialquarterback and call us today, 888-988-JOSH. You could also head over to the website Retirement Reality Check. Are you prepared for retirement? Order your copy of Retirement Reality Check today and receive my new book.
Yes.
And get the ebook free. You get the ebook free. And you also get the On-Point Risk Analyzer. It is an innovative software where you can actually score your portfolio to see just how much risk you have, and the 27-point ultimate financial game plan. You get that when you either buy my book or when you call us right now at 888-988-JOSH. So we're talking post-COVID revenge spending and successful business transitions and employer plans. When we return, this is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
It's always on your mind. Retirement, whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Zielinski.
Josh Zielinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
Which I am.
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, a 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
And we're back. This is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. And we have special guest Mackey McNeil, CPA, PFS, and I guess you're president of an RIA as well. So a very accomplished woman, multiple books she's authored. Her latest is the Prosperity Playbook, a proven formula for strategic, profitable family business successions. So before we get to the show, describe for our listeners your background and what brought you to the financial industry.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on. Well, I started my career as a traditional CPA who always wanted to make a difference for business owners, and I had actually no idea what that meant. But in the beginning, all I did was just do their tax work and try to solve problems. And over the years, that developed into a whole system for how to help them to make more money, work less time in their business, and worry less. And the RIA sort of came along as a way of saying, you know, as they got more profitable and prosperous, they needed some help on the financial side. So we help business owners prosper in all those ways.
Great. So your book offers a step-by-step process in helping family business transition between family members. Can you talk a little bit about what that process looks like?
Absolutely. So when we're working with a family business, actually the first thing we do, and you'll appreciate this, Josh, is we do a financial plan for both the generation that's leaving and the generation that's coming up. And that's so they have a clear idea of what their financial expectations from the business are. Sometimes the business is in a place to meet those expectations, and sometimes it's not. And so that determines what happens next, which is if the business cannot meet the expectations of both the leaving generation and the one coming in, the next generation, then we need to do a little more work on the business.
So what kind of hurdles can business owners face when either selling their business or transferring ownership to other family members?
Well, I think the most important hurdle that they meet is just that they want to avoid the whole conversation. You know, if you ask, I mean, there are over 5 million family businesses that are owned by boomers in this country, and 72% of them have no plan for transition.
Wow.
And if you ask them why, they'll say, well, I don't have time. So they're busy running their businesses, and I think for the most part, they love running their businesses. And that's great. And you know, I'm a boomer, so I can relate to that. I love being in my business, but even though I plan to stay working, I also have a transition plan. The two are not mutually exclusive. I think that's one of the things to realize. But the challenge gets into expectation setting and often information sharing. You know, boomers as a generation are not great about sharing financial information. So often the generation coming up actually has no idea exactly how well the business is doing. They know what their paycheck is. So often there's a lot of learning that has to occur between an understanding of how the business operates, how well it's doing now, and then, of course, how do we fund the payments to the current generation that's leaving? And the business may be capable of that right now, it may not.
So we're with Mackey McNeil talking about her book, The Prosperity Playbook, which we'll give away to you if you're a family business owner in transition or just anybody want to learn more about prosperity for your family as you transition from working to retirement. Call us at 888-988-JOSH and you'll get that book for free. 888-988-JOSH when you schedule and keep your no obligation review. Or you could head over to the prosperityplaybook.com and get it. So, you know, you got me thinking. I heard there's like this hedge fund, and their goal is to actually extract wealth from this boomer transition because they see a big hole that can be exploited where a lot of these business owners are not prepared to sell their business. They think their business is worth something and it's really worthless. It, you know, might be worth 50 grand or their goodwill or some of their customer lists. How does somebody get ready for that? Like, how does somebody go from having a small business that's sort of worthless to a buyer to where you can get a nice multiple on your business?
And I think that's where, ideally, that's where most people start, is thinking about that 5 to 10 years before they really want to make that cash event. And it is true that many business owners cannot really have a business that's not worth anything, because the way I describe it is they're the fulcrum. In a fulcrum, everything has to go through the fulcrum. And so if you're a business owner and you're holding tight to the financials and you're holding tight to the sales process and you're holding tight to everything, and everybody has to ask you, what's next, boss? Then it's really hard for you to sell that business, because you're in the middle of everything. So what we do, what we suggest, and I think I've seen it work over and over, is we put in a financial toolbox. And that financial toolbox, then we teach everyone in the organization, not just the owner, how to use that financial toolbox and how to understand more about how the business is making money. So we begin to build a team. So we stop being a fulcrum and we start building a wheel. The wheel is the strongest shape in the universe. So as we spread the heavy lifting and we get other people to take on some of the big jobs in that organization with understanding of their goals. And that's the beauty of the toolbox. If I have a toolbox, I know what the results are I'm expecting from my departments and from the individuals in my company. So I'm not just nilly-willy saying, here, go make this business work. I'm saying, here, let's plan what we're going to do next year, and let's measure how we're doing, so we'll all know. And I'll know, and we'll go together. Basically, we'll go a lot further if we go together.
And what's in the toolbox? Like what do people learn when they do the toolbox? Like what's in there? What do I need to do? If I want a toolbox, what do I do?
Well, there's 3 kinds of data in the toolbox. The first kind of data is your historical data, and most people think of that as simply their financial statements. And that's a good start. And the first thing is to understand, are they correct? My experience is that about 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10 small businesses have accurate financials. Usually they're, for a variety of reasons, they're not. So that's the first step. We've got to shore up and have good, accurate data. But once we get the data accurate, most people I find don't really like to look at columns of numbers. In fact, I'm a CPA and I don't like to look at columns of numbers. So we make almost the entire historical toolbox visual. So we put in key metrics and we measure those and we look at them on graphs. And a graph is a picture, right? It takes me about 5 seconds to know if I like a picture or don't like a picture. And by measuring those events over time, not only can I see where I'm going, but I can also see small changes, so I can correct small downturns faster, and I can take advantage of when I'm doing well. I can say, wow, this new thing we put in is really working, this new marketing plan or new equipment or new process. Let's double down and do that better. So by measuring frequently and sharing those measures, so that's the first step, the historical toolbox. The second step is the future toolbox. So I want to be able to forecast the future. So that looks like a sales forecast and activity measures for my key departments. So activities drive results, right? So we have to determine what activities drive the results we want and then measure those activities. And then we can begin to predict our results. And the third piece is when these 2 pieces of data, the historical toolbox and the future toolbox, say, something's wrong and I don't know what it is, and I can't talk to all the people involved and nobody knows, then we're going to have a deep dive. We're going to have some deeper analysis. So maybe we need to do a deep dive into our pricing, or we need to do a deep dive into our cost structure. There could be a variety of things that we might need to look at. But if you're measuring the right things globally, you'll know where to look. And, that's actually a big plus, because in today's environment, we have so much data. You can waste a lot of time just looking at your data. So knowing where to look is actually a big benefit.
And that's huge. So you mentioned the toolbox as a way for business owners to be prepared for the transition. What other ways can business owners be prepared for a transition? And really, this isn't just business owners, it's really anybody. You have to forecast your numbers. If you're a worker, if you're an employer, transitioning to retirement from work, you need to forecast your numbers. You need to do a budget. You need to analyze your cash flow. All of those things are important if you're a business owner or if you're not. So that's why the book Prosperity Playbook is a winner, and you should look at getting it by calling us at 888-988-JOSH for the free review, and you get the book at no charge. I'll throw it in. So what other steps can business owners take to be prepared?
So we'll put the toolbox in. So we make sure the financials are right, put the toolbox in place. And we do that over time because we know if we go and give people a whole lot of new data, they're going to go eyes glazed over and not get it. So we'll put that in over time. And when we do that, we'll bring the rest of the team along. And I think that's super important. When an owner tries to continue to have all this information, and then you know what it's like when somebody, you know, your boss goes to a new conference and they get all these great ideas and they come home and say, we're going to do all this great new stuff. And you're like, what happened to them? No, that would be what happened if the owner just worked for us and we put the toolbox in. And then they said, based on our toolbox, we need to do these things. So that's what we're going to bring the whole team around. And we don't necessarily have to share all the data with them. We can share whatever the owner is comfortable with as we begin to share that data and let the team own that data. That's an essential next step, is let your team understand what their results, what is expected of them from a results standpoint, and let them own those results and let them drive those results. So that will go, I mean, that's miles ahead of where you were if you were running your business and you were the fulcrum. And it adds tremendous value to the business because now if your team is taking some ownership, your ability to transfer that to even the next generation or to an upstream buyer is greatly enhanced. So that's certainly the next step. Then once we've done that, I like to go back and say, and keep this, we put it into a rhythm. So we're always, every month we're looking at this data, every week we're looking at this set of data, and we're doing it and everybody's staying on board with it. And then having a lot of what I call curious conversations. So if, say for example, your sales forecast says you're going to be 30% over plan in 2 months. Well, and the first thing I want to know is, can we even produce 30% over plan without upsetting some of our customers? Maybe I need to get sales and production together to say, okay, we're selling all this stuff. Can we produce it? And if we can't, do we need to talk to customers today before we upset them by not delivering? So beginning to really integrate the data into our day-to-day conversations and our, I like to call those curious conversations. We want to know more and we want to work it as a team.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back with Mackey McNeil of Cincinnati-based Mackey, talking about her new book, The Prosperity Playbook, which will be yours if you schedule and keep your no obligation review by calling us at 888-988-JOSH. Also, we're going to talk next segment, one more segment we got Mackey on. What kind of disputes and infighting has she witnessed among family members? And for business owners just starting out, what should they be doing now to cement a successful transfer in the future when we return? This is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH, it's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program. 888-988-JOSH.
We're back talking to Mackey McNeil about business owners in transitions. So you were talking about these curious conversations. Any other points on that before we move to my next question?
No, I don't think so. But, those are really facilitated, again, by the toolbox and our ability to train everybody so they can look, they can understand, educate everybody on how to use that toolbox. So,
fantastic. So what kind of disputes and family infighting have you witnessed when a business transfer happens? And how can we avoid those things? Because, a daughter might say, I want the business. A son might say, I want the business. And the family's torn apart.
Well, I think there are a couple of things. And actually, sometimes the disputes can shut a business down, and they can be internal. So they can be internal disputes or external. And that sounds sort of weird, but to give you an example, several years ago, I was working with a business owner. It was I can't remember if they were second or third generation, a bunch of brothers. And one of the brothers, and they were not doing well. They were losing market share and their earnings were dissipating. And one of the brothers were all paid on the same compensation level, regardless of their role in the business. And that's a big flag. So a lot of infighting occurs because we pay family members because they're family, not because of the roles that they take on. So I'm a big fan of benchmarking all of your positions based on the job description, benchmark them in the marketplace, and pay everyone based on marketplace. That will shut down a lot of your infighting right there. But in this particular business, they were all paid based on the fact that they had the same last name. And this one particular person was really functioning at a clerk level, and the business was going down. And I said, you need to address this. This person, you can't keep paying this person at this level to do a job that's worth about a third of that. But he said, well, if I do that, I'm going to lose my brother. And I said, well, if you lose the business, you're probably going to lose your brother too. And the business went out of business. So, sometimes we have an internal conflict that we can't find a way to address within ourselves. And my kind of mantra is that if you're in a business, the business has to come first. And that's why you have to have a solid financial plan so you can have a little extra cushion for when the business isn't doing so well, because that's a given, right? And businesses are going to go through expansive times and recessionary times, and we need, as business owners, to be prepared. So that's certainly one piece. Another piece I find to be super helpful, especially if you're transferring from one generation to another, is to put in an outside board. It doesn't have to be a voting board. It can be just an advisory board to help you think through and have the next generation in the board meeting with you, and look to your board members and tell them, I want you to give me your thoughts on which one of these next generation I should bring up. Of course, using a variety of tools, the Enneagram, the DISC, the Myers-Briggs can all be helpful too. But also it's not just about that, it's about really who wants to make this happen for them. So I think an outside board, I've seen that happen work beautifully for many companies over the years. Is the board comes in and, it's hard when your heart is right there and you're a parent to say, well, this one or this one. And I found sometimes like the wife who may not be working in the business has one opinion about which child to take over and the spouse has another. So again, the outside board takes away all of that. And you don't have to do what they say. Again, they're not voting. But it's a good reflection to get someone's outside thoughts about who's the best leader for the next generation. And that's what I think what the other part is, to realize that that's the generation that's going to pay you, right? Because the most part, if you're selling to the next generation, there's no bank loan typically. You're the lender. So this is a very important decision for your financial future. And it needs to be somebody that you're confident can write you that check every month, of however you end up getting that money from the business.
Yeah, I always say, get an outside business evaluation. And if someone actually in your family wants to pay up and take the risk of a bank loan for that, rather than you loaning money to the kids, that's better, because if a bank's going to loan you money, you're credit worthy. So if there's 4 kids and only one wants to step up to the plate and take that risk, let that kid take over. I don't know. It's just a thought. What do you think about that?
Well, I think evaluation is critical. And a lot of times before I do a full evaluation, I'll just do a market survey, have someone do what is this business worth in the marketplace? And I think that's a wake-up call too, because sometimes it's worth more to an upstream. Like the upstream person is paying a valuation that the family could never pay. And if the current generation, the generation that's leaving, doesn't have enough, can't afford to sell to the next generation. So there's that whole thing. It's like the next generation can afford to pay X, but the upstream people are paying Y. And there's just no way that a bank or anybody's going to, because there's a lot of money chasing deals right now. I mean, there's no doubt. Depending on the industry, the valuations are crazy. So sometimes it just doesn't make sense to sell to family if you can afford to and you want to, but you may or may not be able to afford to. So that's why we do the financial plan for the generation that's leaving, the current generation in charge. But yes, the valuation is very helpful, and I think gives us a perspective. And I think the idea of who can take the bank loan, who can take the bank risk is a big piece, that's for sure. And it still is sometimes challenging to get that outside debt.
No, fantastic. So we'll take our final break of this segment. If it's all right, if you can stay on for one more segment, Mackey. This has been very helpful. We're going to be talking about pandemic and small business risk and small business owners just starting out. When we return, this is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback here. In these uncertain financial times, it is imperative that you guard your financial future. If you call within the next 3 minutes, we will offer our complimentary bear market survival guide, which will detail steps to help your plan to potentially survive the COVID-19 crisis. The bear market survival guide will cover how you might still be able to retire amid a volatile economic climate. We will throw in our complimentary 27-point ultimate game plan for retirement. Call us at 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674 for your bear market survival guide.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular financial quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH. It's always on your mind. Retirement, whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Zielinski, host of the popular financial quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH. It's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular financial quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH.
So Mackey is also... You live on 35 acres of pesticide-free land. I want to know about this. How can this be done? I think in my sandy soil in New Jersey, it cannot be done. Maybe in Ohio it can be done. But we've tried the pesticide-free thing and nothing grew, and it looked disgusting. So... although my wife is very much against pesticides. So how do you make pesticide-free gardening work? Like, what do? You have grubs? How do you do it? Well,
yeah, I think the one is you do have to tolerate some things. When I met my husband, I wasn't, this is 25 years ago, I wasn't putting pesticides on my lawn, and I had violets and dandelions in it. And he said, "Aren't you embarrassed by your lawn?" And I said, "Why? It's beautiful. And I have the only rabbit and kid-friendly lawn in the neighborhood." So whether it's a little piece or a big piece, I think part of it is maybe changing your mindset about it. And I think that in terms of growing vegetables, actually it's beautiful. We do use some organic sprays on things like cabbages and broccoli, because the cabbage worms would basically decimate them otherwise. But it's an organically approved spray. But for the most part, everything does well. We mulch. We have a lot of horse farms around, so my husband goes and gets horse poop and brings it in by the truckload, and we save up a whole year, and we compost that, and when we put we put fresh compost on the garden every year, so that really makes a difference.
Wonderful. Do you have a website on your garden or no? I'm curious.
I don't anymore because Barry doesn't sell anything other than his maple syrup that he makes. But you can find us on Facebook at Red Sunflower Farm. Red's Sunflower Farm. I'm curious about how to make this work, but we'll see.
I think it's tougher though in New Jersey than Cincinnati. I think our soil is like sand. So it's that's where the compost comes in handy. We've lost a lot of soil. So we are blessed. We live in a river valley, so a lot of it's washed in, and we started with good soil, but all soil can use some amendment. So a lot of good compost. Wonderful. So back to the Prosperity Playbook, which is our free book of the hour. If you schedule and keep your no obligation review at 888-988-JOSH, or you can go to MackeyAdvisors.com or theprosperityplaybook.com and get Mackey's book. So as we head into the next phase of the pandemic, there's the Delta, Lambda, Eta, Theta version of COVID-19. And so much about the future is still unknown. What advice do you have for small business owners looking to either sell or pass on their business?
Yes. Well, I think the first thing is survive to thrive. We have to focus. We always have to focus on, can we survive whatever's coming up? And assuming we're going to have some more challenges, that's the first step. So we're being clear that what your financial strength needs to be. What kind of cash headroom do you need? Monitoring that. There's a tool on our website, MackeyAdvisors.com. You can go, you can download it. Great tool for keeping you informed about your cash flow and cash headroom. Simple, easy to use. So that's the first step, is be clear of how much cash you need to weather storms, and assume there's going to be a storm. There might not be one for 5 more years, but there will be one. And so be prepared.
There may not be a PPP. PPP saved a lot of people during COVID, but if they didn't have it, a lot of business owners would be out of business.
Yes, they would. And a lot of business owners found, in any economic recessions are really gifts to the business owner. But again, it takes a different perspective. But if you think about anytime there's a contraction, we have to really focus on, what are we super good at? Where is our marketplace? I had a marketing firm that was totally focused on restaurants. Well, you can kind of imagine what they were thinking when COVID hit. But they looked at their skill set, and they looked at what they were really good at, and they said, we can pivot, and we can use this same skill set in this other marketplace. And they're actually 2x what they were before COVID. So, use any time that there's a challenge is a good time to double down and say, what am I really good at? Who am I really serving? What's my unique opportunity? And who am I providing the most value to? Or who can I provide the most value to? And I think there's nothing better than that, because you might actually find that you grow your business in ways that you didn't expect.
Now, what about labor shortages and the small business community? I mean, one of the interesting things from the pandemic is people have unemployment for infinity and beyond.
Yes.
You have $15 an hour minimum wage. So a lot of small business at places like Target and Mickey D's, and so you have a lot of business owners that have extraordinary labor costs now that they didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they should look at automation, technology as ways to keep costs down so they don't need as many employees, which is always the consequence of these higher minimum wage bills. But what do they do now? I mean, I talked to one small business owner looking for people, and they said, I have to pay 6 figures now, minimum, for a certain skill. Should they train from within? Should they go get younger people and train them? Any advice there for business owners struggling to find labor right now?
Yeah, I think the key to providing labor is, this sounds sort of odd, but I'll go with it. It's my best thing is to know your bigger purpose. The next generation wants to work for a company that's making a difference. So talk about that and attract the people who want to go with you. So I call it bringing your heart to work. It's what's your bigger purpose, and then attract those who want to go live it with you. If you think about it from that perspective, people will work for a cause, or they'll work for a paycheck, or they'll work for some combination. Right now, you need both. You need a cause and you need a combination. I had a technology company, in fact, they're local, and they were talking about how their technology, they don't really have anything that they do that's cause-driven, like for their customers, but they build cause-related activities into their workplace. So they give people opportunities to give back, and they match their giving. So they have a whole culture around giving back, and that's why people prefer to work there so than another technology company. So you can have a bigger purpose. It could be that it's related to what you actually do, and it could be that just how you actually go about it and how your culture is built. But both of those will give you a big head start with keeping a steady workforce and attracting the right kind of people to your workforce.
Wonderful. And as we conclude, what about small business owners just starting out? What should they be doing now to cement a successful transfer in the future?
That's a good question. I think the most thing is to start with the mindset that I am not going to be the fulcrum. I'm not, as I grow, it's hard when you're growing and you've done everything when you started out. But how am I going to build processes, build systems, build structures? And, today there's a lot of online learning software that you can actually record your processes and record your procedures and write them all up so that you can train people virtually. So find ways to record your best activity, record your philosophy, and then document your processes and document all your structures so that new people coming in can come to work and get busy, get up to speed faster, much faster. And that'll free you up. And the more you free yourself up, the more value your business will have long term, excuse me, the more money you make and the more options you'll have.
No, fantastic. Mackey McNeil, the Prosperity Playbook. If you like what you've heard, you can go to theprosperityplaybook.com or Mackey Advisors, or call us at 888-988-JOSH, and we'll give you your book free when you schedule and keep your no obligation review. Fun interview, Mackey. And folks, when we return, we'll be back with your questions all hour next. 800-321-0710. Don't touch that dial.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Zielinski.
Josh Zielinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
Which I am.
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, a 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
We're back. This is Josh Zielinski, the Financial Quarterback. So one of my tips, since we're talking about business owners in transition, I say you give the business to who's going to pony up the dough, meaning you have a real business valuation from an outside company. And if 2 of your 4 kids want to pay you what it's worth, then they pay you what it's worth and they run the business. If 1 kid only wants to do it, have that 1 kid do it. I just love the idea of sort of ponying up the money. What other conclusions do you have, Mackey, as we round out the interview that we should do for the cause is good, but don't people say, I was recruiting somebody, and the reason we're recruiting them is we might pay them more than their previous boss. So even though their millennials might be purpose driven, doesn't it still come down to just money? Not to be. I do think you're right that it's cause plus money will be a differentiator. Does that make sense? So our company, we give back 10% of our profits. I guess we could be a B corporation if 10% of our net that we bring in goes to really amazing things. We have a missionary in Afghanistan we support that is trying to airlift people back. So my mission is I want to give money to causes that like nobody knows about, nobody wants to give to, because they're crazy places like going to Iraq, Afghanistan. So the hardest places, because very few missionaries actually want to do that work. Very few humanitarians want to really go. I have guys trying to get 20 people to go to Afghanistan, 20 people. And so far he has 5 who are willing to go in order to rescue women and children. So I totally believe the cause is a differentiator if the income's the same. But isn't the income still matter? You know, I don't know.
Well, I think you do have to be in the marketplace. And, you know, in our firm, and I encourage clients, we externally benchmark our jobs every 2 years to know that we're paying within the market. So we have an idea of what the marketplace is for the particular positions. And sometimes people, you know, get a little, you know, they might progress or their job description changes over that 2 years period of time as well. So all those things get taken into consideration. So I'm not suggesting that you can pay, say, half the marketplace and have a good cause and people will work for you. But you probably don't have to pay at the top of the market always if you have a good cause. It depends on what that individual's motivation is. Is their motivation the most to pay, or is their motivation pay and purpose? And for most of the millennials, it's both. It's pay and purpose. In other words, they might stay longer. I had and I know from my own family, I have some millennials that are children, and they tend to take a job because it's better pay. But then if there's not a good cause, they're not so loyal, and sometimes they'll take another job very shortly thereafter. So that's expensive and a waste of your time and energy to hire that person in the first place. I think having some good vetting processes so that the right people come in and having that cause is really a good binder.
And any other concluding thoughts for our listeners on this subject of business transitions?
I think what I would say about business transitions are, the person that's the current generation that's leaving, this is a complicated thing for them because not only are they leaving the business they've probably spent their life working in, they're leaving their identity. So there's often some support that's needed for that person that's leaving to help them find their new identity or to help them find their role.
Yeah, they need a shrink. No.
They get a shrink or coach or maybe they have a continuing relationship with the business, but it's not as the CEO anymore. So there are a variety of things. I think if you get clear about what it is that you as the departing member want, and then you can sort of craft that future. But it's much easier to go to something than to leave something. So be sure you're going towards something, not just leaving something.
And what about the idea? To me, if you have multiple kids, it should almost purely be merit driven, who gets the business or who's going to pay. And then if you have 4 kids and 2 are really into the business and 2 aren't, just write them a check. Just give them a gift or give them a share of something. If you don't, but to sometimes leave, too many chiefs in the tribe, it might screw up the business. I know you talked about that before with a clerk. A business owner that should have been a clerk.
Right. You definitely have to be concerned about. I think that people one of the things that I always preach is differentiating ownership from role. So if you're an owner, you have certain roles of responsibility, but if you have different ones for the job that you have in the business. And, so if there are 3 siblings that are going to own a third going forward, probably one is the CEO, they're not all the CEO. So I don't get, I think if you help people get clear about the idea that ownership does not equal a decision-making authority in every role, in every job, in every place in the business, then that's a big step forward. So if one of them is head of marketing.
Fantastic. Well, we got to wrap up. This has been fun. Mackey McNeil, and folks, give us a call, 888-988-JOSH.
WOR and WAXQ-HD2 New York, an iHeartRadio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeartRadio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts.
The new generation of truth. Inspired by Rush. Clay Travis and our own Buck Sexton. Noon till 3 on 710 WOR. The voice of New York.
An iHeartRadio station.
78 degrees at 10 o'clock. Good morning. I'm Paul DeCastro. As of 6 a.m., Tropical Storm Henri was packing 70-mile-an-hour winds. Once it reaches 74 miles an hour, it becomes a Category 1 hurricane. And that's exactly what it's forecast to do later on today. It'll most likely make landfall somewhere between central Long Island and southeastern Connecticut. Believe it or not, the last hurricane to make landfall on Long Island was Gloria back in 1985. Meteorologist Jeff Marr will have more coming up in your forecast momentarily. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont, meanwhile, issuing a state of emergency. The emergency declaration enables the state to take any actions necessary that may arise because of the storm. Well, Department of Education officials in Washington are backing school mask mandates and are vowing to support Florida school superintendents under fire for requiring masks in their districts. ABC's Oreen Shah has an update on COVID cases among kids.
Children's Hospital Colorado reporting 60% more pediatric ICU patients than normal. This as mask battles intensify. Unmask our kids! And schools are at the center of that battle. From Michigan,
give them a choice,
to Washington, parents now lining the streets protesting. But in Florida, the 2 school districts imposing mask mandates have 48 hours to reverse them. Otherwise, the state is threatening to pull funding.
Well, there's a push in New Jersey for Governor Murphy to lift the ban on virtual learning.
A Change.org petition is circulating asking Murphy to let the state's K-12 schools continue to offer virtual learning this school year. It was started by New Jersey Parents for Virtual Choice. Some group members are driven by COVID concerns, but others say their kids have excelled during the pandemic, learning remotely. They'd like the state to make it a permanent option. Sarah Lee Kessler, WOR News.
In sports, make it 8 straight for the Yanks. They beat the Twins 10-2. Mets lose again as they fall to the Dodgers 3-2. They've dropped 7 of 8. Jets will visit the Packers today in preseason action. Kickoff at 4:25.
Here's your WOR Weather Channel forecast. Henri is forecast to make landfall across parts of Long Island and southern Connecticut on Sunday morning, either as a strong tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. Either way, big impacts for the tri-state area with strong wind gusts, heavy rainfall, and coastal flooding, big concerns. A high of 83 today with scattered thunderstorms. Wind and rain increase overnight, the low of 76. Heavy downpour, strong winds, and coastal flooding on Sunday, tomorrow, the high of 79. Rain tapers off into Monday with a high of 83. I'm meteorologist Jeff Marr.
Next news at 11. Start your day with Len Berman and Michael Rito in the morning, 6 till 10 weekdays. I'm Paul DeCastro and 710 WOR, an NBC News radio station.
Tired of losing money in the stock market roller coaster? Frustrated with the government taxing you into oblivion? Worried about inflation? How do you prepare for so many financial uncertainties? Welcome to the show that will help you develop your game plan. The Financial Quarterback with Josh Zielinski. Josh is a noted financial advisor and president of the Zielinski Advisory Group, and he's here to answer your questions. Call into the show at 800-321-0710. 800-321-0710. Now, let's kick off your financial future. Here's Josh Zielinski.
Hi, we're back. We're back on YouTube, folks. Go to youtube.com, search for Josh Zielinski, the Financial Quarterback. What are my tips for business in transition? We'll talk about that. later on. But first, this is the hour you've been waiting for. This is the hour where you get to ask me any financial education question that you want at 888-988-JOSH for the free review, or 800-321-0710. That's 800-321-0710 gets you on with me. 800-321-0710. You get to ask me any and every financial education question. If you're a small business owner, have you considered a solo 401k plan? Many of your accountants may be pushing you into SEPs, but did you know you could sock away up to $58,000 plus the catch-up provision in a solo 401k? And you could do the solo Roth. Now, those are a fantastic benefits to a small business owner. So if you want to know more about that, call us at 888-988-JOSH. Now, the limit this year is $64,500 for these. If you're 50 or older, $58,000. Note that if you have a 457B plan, you cannot take advantage of the overall limit. All contributions are limited to $19,500 or $26,000. So what's the moral of the story? Max out your retirement plans if you can afford it. Max out to Roth if you want all that money to grow tax-free for you and you pull it out tax-free. Now, you might say, well, Josh, I thought you don't like maxing out the 401k. Yes, I don't like you blindly maxing out, and there is an order of operations. So what is the order of operations? Like, what would I do if I was just starting out saving? Well, number one, I would call us for the protection model, protection, saving, and growth model. And this isn't some self-serving plug. It's what I would do if I were poor, or if I was starting out, or if I was rich and I wanted to reevaluate what I was doing. So what do? You look at your car insurance, your home insurance, your liability first. Why? If you get a car wreck or home fire, or if you have renter's insurance and liability, people say, oh, I had this problem and I'm going to set up, we did a whole segment on this one time, the GoFundMe page. Why are we setting up GoFundMe pages? Because people are irresponsible generally with their own financial lives. I mean, let's be honest here. It sounds horrible. And by the way, I love giving to people in need. I'm just saying the GoFundMe phenomenon, and then you hear you gave to a GoFundMe, and then somebody, am I the only one here who is skeptical of GoFundMe pages? So I saw a GoFundMe page of like somebody, somebody had XYZ, and I thought they were rich. I thought the guy had a lot of money. It's like, maybe he didn't. Maybe it was all ruse. Maybe it was all lie. If it is, I'd like to know that, okay, this guy who died of, whatever, left his wife penniless, above XYZ. I want to know that if we're going to give to a cause. Because I thought, I saw a GoFundMe page of somebody like a while ago, and like they had all this money, I thought. Where it was like a millionaire. Anyway, now here's the thing. If you're in a tragedy, I'm all for charity. I love to give to causes. It's just the whole GoFundMe thing kind of is like odd. Am I the only one, Ernesto? Am I being heartless here?
I feel skeptical as well. That's why I try to give through causes through churches.
Yeah, I like to give to the local church, or there's a board and they vet the people, or I know the people. And by the way, if your friend, has an issue and they set up a GoFundMe and that's the way to serve them, bless them. Don't bless them with cookies. Don't bless them with flowers. Bless them with money. I mean, if somebody's really struggling, because I'll tell you what, Ernesto's raising his hand. You want to talk, or you want to take some?
I want to talk.
You'll set up a GoFundMe page. Yeah.
I'm really curious. One of your clients asked me the other day, someone I referred to you, if I knew about any missions groups or anything going on in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned in the previous segment that you have something going on there, and I can tell you for a fact your listeners want to know. So what are you able to tell us about this, and how can people get involved?
Well, a lot of people if somebody wants to know that, they can email me, josh@zielinski.com, and I will get them in touch with some. There is some confidentiality because they are trying to get a plane, charter a plane for $300,000 to airlift various members of various communities that would be persecuted by the Taliban. Bring them. There's only like 5 countries that will take these people. I think it's Albania, Kosovo, Macedonia, Canada, and the U.S. Only 5, from what I'm hearing. So yeah, I like money to go to the cause direct. So I know the particular man, and he gives like 90% or whatever to the actual need, 95%, and he takes a very small salary. And it's just so he and his wife can live. And the majority of the money you give goes to the need. And I think that's important. Now, mind you, give to charity. I think if we're talking about my tips for just starting out, my first tip is give 10% of your, even if you make $100, give away $10. Giving is living, because there's always somebody who needs it more than you. So I'm not negating charitable intent. What I was just referring to is the reason why I lead with protection is it devastated my own family. My father went to a financial advisor. They said, oh, put all your money in index funds. Then he got disabled and he needed to drain those index funds. So you got to realize what happened to you in the 80s and 90s. I don't think it really was my dad's fault so much as misinformation. Get this, Ernesto. Back in the 80s or 90s, you would have financial advisors say, cancel your insurance, put all your money in the market, and you'll have $2 million. So you won't need insurance. I mean, how many people have heard of that? And my dad did that. By the way, there are people on the radio still touting that you can make mutual funds earning 12% a year. And they sell millions of books. They, in my view, misinform churches, people of faith. They use affinity marketing to scam people, really. Watch out also, just because somebody goes to your church, doesn't mean they're great at money. No, I'm a person of faith, but that's not why you do business with me. You do business with me because, we try to do the right thing for our clients. And that was something even with the Bernie Madoff scandal. That he was using affinity marketing scams where he was giving a lot to very good foundations and he was scamming people in those foundations, apparently. So the point is, just be careful. The other point is insure before you save. Meaning, think about how many people down on your luck. Do you know people down on their luck, Ernesto?
I do. I do know a few.
My parents were down on their luck through no fault of their own. So I'm not, my dad got disabled multiple times. There's issues. People sometimes, they're just not, they're not dealt a good hand. So what could have stopped them from being so down on their luck? Well, disability insurance, right? Because if you get disabled, a company will pay you 67% of what you made so you won't be homeless. So I like to, if I have a priority of saving before you max out, protect. Buy car insurance, buy home insurance, buy medical insurance, buy disability insurance, buy liability insurance. Make sure you have a proper plan for your Social Security. Have a will and have life insurance equal to 20 times your income. A minimum of 10 times your income if you're just starting out. But really it should be like 20 times your income. So that's your moat around your castle. So think about this. Then if you're disabled, die, get in a car wreck, or your house burns down, you'll still be okay. Does that make sense? So you're okay then. So you're still not maxing out your 401k yet. Then you're saving for emergencies, 6 months of your income. That way, if you lose your job, you have 6 months of living expenses in the bank. Then and only then do you start your 401k. And you do your 401k up to the match. Then you kick out and you do some tax smart things like a Roth or cash value life insurance. And then you go back to maxing out your 401k or qualified plans. So there is a priority. Does that make sense? So for me, it was protect in a car incident, a home incident, a disability, a death, I'm not employed, but a loss in revenue to the business due to whatever reason. And then you max out your QRP, your qualified retirement plans. But there's a lot to do before you do that first. So give us a call, 888-988-JOSH. If you want the no obligation model, it's a very powerful financial modeling tool, which I will give you at no charge. It's called our 27-point ultimate financial game plan. It is 27 points that you need to know for financial success, in my opinion. From debt to cash flow, to protection, to assets, to growth. Now, if you're not working and married, you may be leaving tax-deductible money that could go to your retirement savings. Folks, are you leaving money on the table? We're going to talk about that next with a little-known tool called a Spousal Ira. When we return, this is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH, it's a great thing to do. If you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders, call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH.
Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback here. In these uncertain financial times, it is imperative that you guard your financial future. If you call within the next 3 minutes, we will offer our complimentary bear market survival guide, which will detail steps to help your plan to potentially survive the COVID-19 crisis. The bear market survival guide will cover how you might still be able to retire amid a volatile economic climate. We will throw in our complimentary 27-point ultimate game plan for retirement. Call us at 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674 for your bear market survival guide.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-JOSH.
Folks, we're taking your calls at 888-988-JOSH. If you want the free 27-point ultimate financial game plan, if you want to call me right now with any financial question, you can call us right now at 800-321-0710. You can also go to YouTube and search for Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, and hit the subscribe button right now. And you get to see my ugly mug. So just see me at 888-988-JOSH. Actually, go to youtube.com and just search for Josh Zielinski, and you will find me and hit the subscribe button, or the financial quarterback, and hit the subscribe button. So give us a call, 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. So we're talking about the Spousal Ira. It's a little known thing that a lot of people who don't work, so this is an exception for married spouses who file their tax returns jointly. It is simply a traditional or Roth in the non-working spouse's name into which both partners can make contributions. Individuals can sock away $6,000 in 2021, $7,000 if they're 50 or over. That means for married couples, they can contribute a combined maximum of $14,000 if they're 50 and older. The working spouse must have an income that is equal to or exceeds those contributions. Meanwhile, if you worked and already have an IRA but then stopped working, there's no need to open up a new IRA for spousal contributions. Those can be made into your current IRA. If the working spouse is not offered a QRP through their employer, there are no limits to doing a spousal IRA. If they do have the option of a 401k or other employer-sponsored plan, tax-deferred treatments may be reduced depending on the couple's income, but you can do what's called the Backdoor Roth. For anybody who doesn't have to worry about the income thresholds and can make a spousal IRA contribution, it is an extremely powerful deduction. You are funding your own retirement, and you get to receive a deduction for that funding of your own retirement. For instance, by saving $6,000 each year for 30 years, at 5%, you'll have more than $400,000 saved for retirement. That's in addition to whatever the working spouse saves in their retirement account, like a 401k. Contributions to the worker's own retirement plan are unaffected. So if it's a 401k, you can sock away like $26,000, and your spouse can do $7,000. So that's $33,000 a year you could save up for your retirement. So give us a call right now, 800-321-0710. Are you taking advantage of the spousal IRA? Do you find that you are doing revenge spending? We talked about this concept of revenge spending, but then we went straight to the guest. So maybe you as a listener are like, I'm doing that revenge spending. What did I spend money most on? DoorDash and probably Starbucks, and I bought an espresso machine. That's kind of what my guilty pleasures were of the pandemic.
Where's the espresso machine? Where's this machine?
I know. We need it right now. In the studio, we need the right? Wouldn't that be great?
It would be great. Yeah.
I'll probably get one. I'll get a little one for us. But here's the thing. If you buy the espresso machine, you save a ton of money if you're buying Starbucks. Starbucks is such a waste of money. But you need fuel for the day. So what do? Well, if you have an espresso machine, you can do the lattes, you can do the cappuccinos, and you get a little pick-me-up. I also found that, so those are my revenge spending. So it really wasn't revenge spending. I will tell you, we had no revenge spending due to COVID. We do have revenge spending. My wife, after spending the last 60 days in the hospital with our child, goes, you know what, I want to go on a long trip to Hawaii. So for those of you who were praying, thank you for praying. Our child came home yesterday, so it was sweet. So thank the Lord that he's alive, and now he may have to have hernia operations when he heals. So he's doing well, recovering from some intestinal issues. So the baby, some people said, well, what's the baby's name? I missed the last show. Well, if you missed the last show, you have to go back and hear the reruns. So check out our Spotify podcasts, and the full-length shows are on the iHeartRadio app, also Apple iTunes. So did you do anything? Do you have any spending habit you developed during COVID? Here's the thing, though. DoorDash tastes disgusting. Do you agree with me? You could have the same meal, and it's DoorDash, and it's cold by the time you get it. I don't really like it. I'd much rather have a home-cooked meal. The problem is, it's a lot of work with 7 kids now, and I don't want to be my wife's 8th child. So rather than say, honey, can I do this? Ordering DoorDash. Although I found a healthy kind of kick. I have a grilled salmon and a side of steamed broccoli. I was getting the fried Brussels sprouts thinking they were healthy. And it was, you may be watching the YouTube saying, oh, he packed on a few pounds. He packed on the COVID-19. Well, I'm working on reversing that. Did get sick a few weeks ago, and I lost 10 pounds like that. So it was amazing. Quickly gained a lot of it back, I think. But it showed me that I can do it quickly. So what say you? Give us a call. 800-321-0710. Have there been any spending habits you would like to change due to COVID? So for me, I think it's ordering out. Do you find any place that orders out and it's good, Ernesto?
I do.
Chinese food is hot, but I'm not really into Chinese food.
There's a little secret, though, when it comes to ordering, whether you're using DoorDash or Uber Eats. And the secret is you have to pay $1.49 extra for, they do priority delivery. So that no matter who else is ordering, your order is delivered first. So it doesn't get cold as it's being circulated around the driver's route.
Oh, I just think it's horrible. It's like, to me, Kevin O'Leary came on the show, I don't know, a year or two ago. He talked about flash kitchens. And he thinks in the future you'll have, you won't cook. But so think of it as like Amazon. You're not going to go to the store, you're just going to say, I want that, shows up at your house a day later. And then it's going to be 2 hours later. And so when they can get delivery times compressed, so you won't really go to the store for groceries. You'll have these flash kitchens, boom. And
I think Wegmans is the leader in that. Ever since college, I went to school at Ithaca, and there's a Wegmans in downtown Ithaca.
Oh, they're great at that.
And and now I get all these emails about these meals ready to go. So I think,
and they're pretty healthy.
Oh, absolutely.
But the problem is you got to go there.
No,
right?
they deliver now. Yeah. So I think your colleague's vision is now.
I think that's
reality.
If you're in. Yeah, Wegmans will only go to places they deem sort of wealthy. Which I don't know how they went to Ithaca. Are they from upstate New York? Because upstate New York isn't known for its wealth, but I guess Ithaca is college town.
Ithaca's Cornell.
Okay,
yeah.
so you got the college town.
Ithaca College in Cornell.
Yeah. So, Wegmans, the furthest south they go is Monmouth County in New Jersey. And the furthest east they go, southeast, is Princeton or Cherry Hill area. They won't go south of there. It's like the Mason-Dixon line. So, folks, any guilty spending pleasures that you would like to share at 800-321-0710. Are you spending money on back to school? I know a lot of, I will tell you, here is a prediction, since I'm good at predicting sometimes. I believe that homeschooling will revolutionize the way we fund schools in the future. Here's why. You have all these mask mandates now for kids going back to school for a third year in a row. I'm not really fighting the masks, but, having children masked is, they really hate it. And they're really becoming demoralized. So a lot of parents are saying enough's enough. They're pulling their kids out. They're homeschooling them, or they're doing pods. And here's why I think it's going to revolutionize the country. Nobody loves your kid more than you do. I get people say all the time, you homeschool, Josh. Are your kids social? No, I do not care about my kids' social development. I hate my children. That is the stupidest thing to say, by the way, to a parent who's homeschooling their child, because they, of course, want their kids to be socially well adapted. That's why our kids play soccer, baseball, they do dance, they do ballet, they do probably more activities than your other kids. And have you ever noticed a child who goes to a public school now, and no offense to public school kids, I was a public school kid, they do not look at you in the eye. They look down at the ground, which coincidentally was what they do in the former Soviet Union because they were so afraid of the government, they would just look down. So I don't want to get, hot here, but as a part of envisioning a future that's better than the past, what if all the money that was spent on kids, what if we abolished property taxes? And we said parents can pool their money so that they can provide pod schools. They can hire a teacher, pay them well, and that teacher can have 12 kids. Here's the thing. How many of you pay $5,000 or $6,000 a year in property taxes? I pay a lot more than that. But if you pooled the average property tax in New Jersey, I don't know what it is, $8,000 a kid or something, and you took 12 parents paying $8,000 each, that's $96,000. You tell me a teacher wouldn't be happy to make $96,000, provided they get that for curriculum, healthcare, and then maybe add a couple more kids so that they get paid, $108,000 or $120,000. Their healthcare is a write-off. I don't think you would have a teacher shortage. Teachers could be entrepreneurial. They could have less class sizes. And then you get rid of the administrative bureaucracy, thereby revolutionizing entire town budgets. Isn't that a great idea? So pod schooling, you call it homeschooling. By the way, every homeschooler kind of does pod schooling now because in a way they have co-ops. So if your kid needs help with biology or chemistry, you find a tutor. And you pay that tutor privately. So, anybody want to talk about this? Anybody like this idea? Give us a call, 800-321-0710. But I've heard that. Oh, are your kids social? Are yours? They're stuck in front of a stinking video game their whole day. Anyway, I'm having fun with this. But don't you think, what do you think about this, Ernesto? Do you think this is going to we'll get Ernesto's take on this after the break. When we return, this is Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial.
It's always on your mind. Retirement,
like that point?
Whether you're 55 or 35. Not everyone wants to work forever, and most would like a comfortable retirement. You may already have a plan, but is it the right one? Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, is ready to guide you towards financial freedom. He challenges the ways your parents and grandparents saved money with fresh strategies, which are exactly what you need to navigate today's volatile economic climate. Josh's new book, Retirement Reality Check, is available to order on Amazon. It's an easy read that guides you through his system for securing your financial freedom, including tax-saving strategies, understanding the right investment mix, and more. Order now. Retirement Reality Check. Call Josh at 888-988-JOSH. Let Josh help you map out your retirement using fresh strategies. Call 888-988-5674. That's 888-988-5674.
We're back. We got a lot talking about some articles. Kindergarten enrollment is declining. So here's the thing. Our tax dollars are now funding universal pre-K. And thousands of kindergartners are not even showing up to school, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. So what do you think about my plan? I think it's a good one. I think it would revolutionize costs, taxes. It would save the Northeast from people moving to Florida because of high property taxes. Here's the thing. If you go to Florida now, and you buy a house, you pay a heavy property tax, but you don't pay an income tax. So one way New York, New Jersey, Connecticut can be competitive is through this pod schooling. Now you might say, well, what if I have a child and I have to work outside the home? I don't have that luxury. Well, you would use your money. So instead of paying $8,000 to a town, you would pay $8,000 to your pod teacher of your local neighborhood. And that way, if there is a COVID pandemic safety watch, you have 8 to 12 kids that can properly space and not develop psychological abnormalities because they're properly spacing, but they don't have to wear masks. They don't have to, anyway. So that's my take on this subject. Give us a call, 800-321-0710, if you want to chime in. And folks, try to call the other financial shows. They won't pick up. They're canned. You're calling, hello, I have a question. Hello, hello, hello. Where is everybody? So give us a call. Also, CNBC is reporting that the SEC is warming up to Bitcoin. I'll talk about that on tomorrow's podcast. And there's a possibility of proving a Bitcoin futures ETF. Now, here's the thing I want you to learn about, folks. That doesn't mean the price of Bitcoin will go up. Is the price of Bitcoin up now to 50,000, 49,000? Because that's already priced in. So what people have to realize, people don't understand how to price Bitcoin. They don't even understand how to price the market. But generally, the price of a stock is what the collective view of the market deems it to be. Does that make sense? So what that means is, if Bitcoin today is priced at 49,068, that is what the market deems it worth after already having the knowledge that the SEC may approve Bitcoin futures. So pricing, so the price of Coke stock, the price of Tesla, already is pricing in the fact that they may develop the robot that was announced, the humanoid robot. We are in for a really weird world of robots doing work. Now, some people would say, well, that's negative. I think it's positive because all of our brain power could be devoted to solving really big issues and really great implications, but like what this woman says, we still have not really solved the problem of pesticide-free farming. So maybe we solve that issue. So.
I don't think your neighbors would like you, by the way. If you went
dandelions,
I don't think they'd like you. I mean,
crabgrass.
You might have a problem.
I don't know. I think she's in an Ohio farm, so she can. We're talking about our last guest,
Mackey
wonderful
McNeil.
woman, Mackey McNeil. Never heard of her before, but man, she was a great guest, wasn't she? So, folks, if you missed that, catch the podcast. And, folks, give us a call, 800-321-0710. If you have questions on stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds. Folks, we are live, unscripted and uncensored. So if you have a question, call me now. We're one of the only financial shows. I'm going to start going to a canned show, Ernesto, if people don't start calling right now at 800-321-0710 with their financial questions.
I think I have all the questions today.
I think most people do not realize that the average financial show is canned to make the host look good. We just look good anyway, hopefully. Except with the added COVID-19. So, folks, give us a call, 800-321-0710. We got a lot to talk about, but I really want to hear from you. So we talked about pod schooling. We talked about revolutionary. So we would look at this as bad. Oh, the kindergartners are not going back. So that's the other thing. News is often fake, used to derive fear or greed. The future belongs to the optimists. There used to be a club called the Optimist Club. Were you a part of this? Did you have this when you were in school?
I was not. I was just trying to join the Mickey Mouse Club if they would have me.
By the time I was in school, the Optimist Club was not around. but I don't know what it became. Google, what did the Optimist Club become? It has some politically correct name now, probably. So the Optimist Club, so the future is generally brighter. So here's how I look at it. Imagine all these parents that go, you know what? I can stay at home with my kids. I can teach them how to read. I used to have people go, well, you can do homeschooling for your first child because she's great, but what about child 2, 3, 4, and 5? Well, you know what? They're all doing really well. They're all reading a book a day, unprovoked. So these kids that are growing up homeschooling, they could change the future. They're smart, they're bright, they're well-adjusted. So what's interesting is, while others are cowering in fear, we can take over the future with power and optimism. So negativity doesn't always win, right? The future is always brighter than it seems at first. But what's interesting is, so people say, oh, the kindergartners. So now we need pre-K. But the kids aren't even going to K, let alone pre-K. So now we've worked from home. So parents are more present to their kids. I mean, we could have a whole really cool generation in 20 years that we never had before because of COVID, because more parents just are spending more time with their kids. And then more kids are well educated. We got Richard. This is funny. He's a problem with homeschooling. Let's go, Richard.
Yeah. Hello, Josh.
Hi. Good to hear your voice.
I listened to your broadcast here, and that's a great idea if you only have one child. But what happens when you have 3 or 4, and it costs you $32,000 or $24,000 to hire teachers?
Well,
because they're all not going to be in the same class.
Well, if you did that, well, actually, what's interesting is, because we do this for my children, we pay a couple grand a year. We are a part of a homeschool cooperative, and parents volunteer, and they're paid far less because a teacher might get paid $4 or $5 grand for the semester, and they'll teach other people's kids, realizing that. So my wife teaches about 10 to 12 kids, and then somebody else teaches my kids who are maybe not in that age group. And then there are various volunteers, and then the cost is distributed that way. So you can have economies of scale. You can have certain parents who maybe have more kids. They could volunteer their time to defray. You could also go to the old voucher concept, which each house, let's say instead of paying 10 grand for property taxes, they pay 2, which was the original idea, by the way. The original idea behind property tax was really good, that you would distribute the cost of care, because back in the day, everything was like a use tax, and there was the one-room schoolhouse, which, by the way, is sort of the model that our homeschooling methodology is based on, because the reason my kids are so well educated is the 5-year-old goes and he hears what the 13-year-old, what the 9-year-old, what the 11-year-old, and what the 6-year-old is all listening. So that's a good point, but it certainly can be matched. Now, here's the thing. All these dialogues are very good. It's what they do in the Board of Ed anyway, but then this administrator's making 220 grand a year. Then, his or her spouse is making 180 grand a year as a curriculum supervisor. And then somebody else. And by the way, you could have a public option, right? And a private option. So for people who want a public school, you could do it the public way. If you private, maybe you pay a little more if you want the private option. But
yeah, that's more like the voucher system.
You could do a voucher system, but I think what's interesting is, for some reason, voucher system not cool, right? Like, people don't like it as much. But everybody's loving pod schooling, homeschooling. I mean, I have kids who are school age now. I meet people all the time. They go, "Oh, you're homeschooling? How do we do that? How do we learn how?" And they think it's like really hard. There are whole groups that can help you. So it's interesting. So great point, Richard. Any other comments?
No, I just want to say that I would like to give you a call later in the week, next week, because I would like to discuss something with you, financially.
Wonderful. Well, if you or any of our listeners would like to discuss things financially, call us at 888-988-JOSH. So it's a lot of fun. And great question on homeschooling. Next up, we have Vito, who wants to know where to invest after he retires. Go ahead, Vito.
Yeah, I have my money in a union, and should I invest it in somewhere where it's like a Vanguard or something, or Fidelity? Is that more safer?
Well, Vanguard or Fidelity, and we work with Vanguard ETFs or Vanguard mutual funds through custodians like Schwab or Fidelity. We also work with Fidelity, Schwab. They are generally lower cost custodians that house your money. So if you have your money with the union, the first thing I would ask is, what are you giving up if you move your money from the annuity to an outside brokerage? The benefit of a rollover to an institution like what you're mentioning is freedom of choice. So you can pick funds, you can pick bonds, you could pick stocks, you could pick low-cost index funds, you could pick low-cost exchange-traded funds. You could diversify, you could take more risk, you could take less risk. So that's usually the benefit, is freedom of choice.
Right.
And when we return from the break, if you can hold on, I'll talk about some of the negatives. Some of the negatives might be maybe your fees are more. Maybe you're giving up a fixed rate on the annuity. And maybe, but maybe you can get a private annuity, give you a better fixed rate. So we cover all of that is in our Is a Rollover Right for You review, where we actually do a due diligence call with your annuity, with your 401k provider, and figure out what are the fees, what are the risks of what you have, and then what are the benefits if you do a rollover in terms of investment counseling, things of that nature. So you don't want to blindly do a rollover. Give us a call, 888-988-JOSH. And if you want to hold on for the break, I can ask, you can ask me any question you have about that as a follow-up. Give us a call, folks, 888-JOSH for the free review, 888-988-JOSH. We'll be back after these messages.
Hey, meet you out on the first tee?
Yeah, I'll be right there. Just reading this article.
On what?
New bill Congress passed. Looks like it's going to affect the value of all retirement savings plans. My financial guy didn't tell me about this when I saw him the other day.
Well, my guy did, and we made a plan. You may have heard of him, Josh Zielinski.
Josh Zielinski is your guy?
Listen, if you're 10 years or less from retirement,
which I am,
Josh will give you a free economic plan, which includes retirement planning, a 27-point checklist to make sure your income lasts as long as you live. He'll even help you navigate the current tax code.
I'm definitely going to call Josh.
Cool, but first, can we play some golf?
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program, for your free economic plan. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
Are you worried about the recent coronavirus crisis and how it may have affected your money? Hi, everybody. I'm Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, inviting you to join me for my complimentary 6 Ways to Keep Calm During Turbulent Markets webinar. If you schedule and keep your no-obligation webinar today at 888-988-JOSH. It's a great thing to do if you're stuck at home under stay-at-home orders. Call us right now, 888-988-JOSH. If you're bored, there's never been a better time to get a second opinion on your wealth than right now. 888-988-JOSH, 888-988-5674. And go to my website, retirementrealitycheck.com today, and take your free investment profile quiz. And when you buy my book, you're eligible for 3 free gifts. 888-988-JOSH.
Call Josh Zielinski, host of the popular Financial Quarterback radio program. 888-988-JOSH.
So, Vito, do you have any follow-up questions?
I've been doing good with them. I don't even know what they take out of me. I don't think they take anything out as far as, because I've never taken it out. But I've worked 40 years in construction, so.
Well, sometimes the fees are internal with what's called an expense ratio. And sometimes fees don't matter if you're trying to get, like, let's say you're blue collar guy, union guy, and you just want to outsource some of the day-to-day money management so you don't have to worry about it, and maybe you meet with an advisor once a quarter, once every 6 months, that's worth a fee, so you don't have to worry about your money all the time. Also realize with most annuities and union pensions, you have like 5 or 10 options with your money, and that's it. Usually you have some type of stable value fund. Usually you have a couple index funds, like an equity fund, like a large cap, and overseas. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just more. Yeah.
And basically, you have such few options that I don't think that's generally best for the long term. But call us 888-988-JOSH, and we could help you with that. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
I have love mail / hate mail. So thrilled you brought your little guy home. A dear listener friend writes, I'll bet your kids are excited to have their brother and mom home. Yes, it was last night was the reuniting of our family, and it was darling. And she writes, all that takeout food is crap. My suggestion is you start the barbecue. What family doesn't like a barbecue? Even you can do it. Well, my dear friend, listener friend, barbecues now, according to my wife, are carcinogenic because of the char is apparently carcinogenic. So you got to watch with the barbecue. That being said, if I get steamed broccoli and sauteed salmon, how bad is that? Other than maybe the butter or whatever oil they're using to cook the salmon in, that's pretty good, I thought.
Do you do this at home? Do you make it yourself?
No, not yet.
I'm going to give you a quick tip on salmon, or
Okay.
You can get fresh frozen salmon. You put baking paper in the oven over your glass Tupperware, glassware that you're going to make it in. If you roast it for 10 minutes and then cut the paper, the last 10 minutes, in 20 minutes you have fresh roasted salmon.
Oh, wow. So I
takes
gotta,
you 20 minutes.
I'm going to call you and you're going to do a video.
I'll walk you right
and
through
then
it.
we'll post it on YouTube.
We'll post it on the YouTube for the Financial Quarterback eating tips.
Yeah, because that saves you money if you cook yourself. And usually it tastes better, too. And I guess you no oil if you're just
I
baking.
use a little bit of avocado olive oil. So there's no, you don't use butter. I put some caper in there, and capers. It's actually delicious.
Well, next up we have Peter, Roth IRA conversion, and then Gordon, the great term versus whole life insurance debate, which, by the way, Dave Ramsey has still not answered my challenge. Meet me behind the willow tree, Dave. He refuses to debate me on this issue, largely because he would lose the debate. So next up, go ahead, Peter.
Hi, Josh. First and foremost, congratulations on your good family news. That's nice to hear.
Thank you.
I'm a frequent listener. I caught the show a few months ago with Ed Slott about Roth IRAs, and I got very excited on the topic of Roth IRA conversions. Here's my question. Everything I read says that to pay the taxes, you should not dip into your IRA. Rather, you should have some funds off to the side. I don't have that. I realize that's the ideal case, but my IRA has done very well. That would be the source of the funds for the conversion and also for the taxes. But is that fatal to pull the funds for the taxes out of the same IRA?
It generally is frowned upon because then it's like, let's say you have $1 million in an IRA and no money elsewhere. I'm just using this as a round number. And you Roth 100,000 and your tax bill is 30% combined federal and state. Right. So now instead of having 100 grand in Roth, you'll have 70. So it's sort of like almost the same thing as if you just kept it in the IRA, and waited till you were retired. So the other thing you could do is take out, I'm not advising you to do this, but some people will take out a home equity line at 2 or 3% because it's better to pay the 3% to the bank than 30% to the government, or they'll refi some debt, like they'll refinance their mortgage from a 15 to 30 to have extra cash flow to then save up to do the cash in the conversions. That's one thing you could do. And we'll help you, by the way, see if a Roth conversion is right for you if you call us at 888-988-JOSH. It is right for some, not right for others. The benefit of doing it anyway, though, is let's say you have no other money to pay the tax. There's still a benefit of doing it because you're hedging yourself against future tax hikes. It's just, generally speaking, I would rather you get the money to pay the tax elsewhere. And with interest rates so low, I'd rather pay 3% to a bank than 30% to the government. Now, you're going to actually pay 30% to the government anyway because you're doing the conversion. But the idea is, wouldn't you rather have an extra 30 grand in that 100 grand conversion instance? I would rather have 100 grand growing for me tax-free for life than 70. So that's really the concept there.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I got the feeling that since my IRA had done so well, I was kind of playing with house money.
Well, that could be another theory, but I would try to engineer a better strategy, and you can call us at 888-988-JOSH, and we'll help you do that. Okay?
Okay, great. Will do. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. And Ernesto says, wouldn't it be cool to have a financial quarterback cookbook? Eat like a millionaire on a budget. Let's do it. We're going to do it. I think we do it as a series of YouTubes. Go to youtube.com, search for Josh Zielinski, subscribe. I have an irate listener email that I will reveal after the next break, and we will talk to Gordon about the great term versus whole debate. It looks like that we have like a couple minutes, so maybe I'll take Gordon and not break. So go ahead, Gordon.
Yes, Josh. Good morning. Let's say somebody wants to buy a life insurance policy. And the cost of the policy is... I
love this, Gordon. Gordon, by that somebody, are you meaning you? No.
Well, it's a bit hypothetical.
Okay.
But, it could... I don't have life insurance at this present time.
Sure. But sure. Somebody, hypothetical. Okay, so somebody.
Okay. Now, let's say the cost of the policy is not a consideration. We'll just put that aside for a second. And... if a person wants just age and physical consideration, a physical condition is a consideration of the policy. Now, I'd like to know, is it easier for a person to get a whole life insurance policy from an insurance company, or is it easier to get a term life insurance?
It's easier to get term because there's less risk on the company. Because there's been studies that 93 to 99% of all term life insurance policies do not get paid out because people usually die after the term expires, according to one Penn State study that I remember. Somebody said, hold on here, Gordon. Hate mail comes in. Don't you dare do a canned show. It's bad enough I don't get to see you on Long Island now. If you would come to Long Island, I would bring you home-cooked, prepared meals to take home. That's good. Well, for you, I will go. But just give me some time here. Okay. And Gordon, back to Gordon. So generally, whole life is harder to get than term. And universal is easier to get than traditional whole from a participating company with dividends because you're guaranteed to die. So there is a 1-in-1 chance that you're going to die with whole life if you kept it for the whole duration of your life. There's like a 1-in-100 chance that you're going to die while being covered with term. By the way, if you want help evaluating insurance, investments, Roth conversions, pick up the phone. I'd love to meet with you. Shake your hand. Well, not shake your hand. We'll do the air shake. 888-988-JOSH. 888-988-JOSH.
The preceding program was sponsored by the Zielinski Advisory Group. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications, including 5-Star Wealth Manager, Advisory of the Year finalist by Senior Market Advisor, and Top of the $1 Million Roundtable, are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Josh Zielinski or Wealth Quarterback LLC. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available available on the Wealth Quarterback website at www.zielinski.org. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. Due to various factors, including changing market conditions, the information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, Josh Zielinski and Wealth Quarterback do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature, is provided for informational purposes only, and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Investment advisory services offered through Wealth Quarterback, LLC.
WOR and WAXQ HD2 New York, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart Radio app. #1 for music, radio,